Hey, welcome to Horns Up. This is episode number, what? Which episode is it? 17? 18?
Yeah.
17?
17, yeah.
This is episode number 17. I'm Animesh.
And I'm Peter.
And today we are talking Amogh Symphony.
Yeah, man. The mysterious yet, eccentric, if you want to call them.
Yeah, mysterious and eccentric. I think that those would be two good adjectives to use for Amogh Symphony. What's your Amogh Symphony story? When did you first check them out, or how did you chance upon them?
Wow. So for those of you at least who've heard the initial episodes, you all have kind of dated and know how old Animesh and I are.
Yeah.
But I still remember the first time. I'm not sure who exactly linked it to me, or probably it was one of the RSJ or GigPad forums, but someone posted a MySpace link for this band called Amogh Symphony and said, this is some amazing stuff. Does anyone know who this guy is? Because nobody knew who Amogh Symphony, and with a name like Amogh Symphony, it's a bit of a...
Yeah, you know
strange.
It's Indian, but you don't know if it's some foreigner trying to sound Indian.
And you didn't even know if it was one person or three
or
people.
two people or three people or whatever.
And then I hit play. And I think for the entire song, I was just like, what the hell is going on? Because this was like hyper sped up death metal riffs with like jazz parts in there. And I was like, okay, is this guy even human?
Yeah, it's very avant-garde when you first checked it out, right?
And this was the album, for those who've heard it, Abolishing the Obsolete System.
Yeah,
that was
with that artwork,
dude,
that woman, no,
yeah,
it was that woman breathing fire, the tech robot woman breathing fire.
Dude, it was like crazy, and then figuring out that okay, this is one guy named Vishal J Singh who's done all of this. And man, it was crazy just to hear it for the first time and realize that, okay, there's a guy who's playing this kind of music. Because if you look back, it's 10 years ago. This was far ahead most Indian bands.
Absolutely.
In all aspects.
Yes. Quick sidebar. Bombay scene question to you, or Bombay scene trivia.
Yeah.
Guess who introduced me to Amogh Symphony by hard selling me a CD?
There can only be one person who does something like that.
Who?
Mr. Ashwin Sharma.
Holy shit, you win 10,000 points. Yes, he hard sold me the CD back when I think, was it Big 69 or was it that place in Borivali which used to host gigs?
Yeah.
I don't know, one of the two things. He sold me Abolishing. He sold me Abolishing the Obsolete System, and oh my god, it was like the Matrix meeting metal, but not just metal, avant-garde jazz metal, technical death metal, and it completely blew my mind. The next release, Quantum Hack Code, was even better, I thought. I thought it was a better album.
Oh yeah, storytelling-wise. Now, just to go back a second, for those of you listening to it and haven't heard Abolishing the Obsolete System, this predated Gent. This predated bands like
Chim Spanner, Hydrogent and stuff.
Hydrogent, Animals as Leaders and stuff like that. So hearing this prior to this sound becoming more mainstream and
more popular,
it was crazy. But
it was.
Quantum Hack Code had a lot going on. I mean, again, I feel this was still ahead with its storytelling. So you had every alternate track, which was an intro and stuff like that, which I think had like polarizing reviews because they also released a version without the intros. Yeah. What was your take on that album?
I as I said, I enjoyed Quantum Hack Code more than I did Abolishing. And I think I liked it because I'm a huge sucker for concept albums as such overall. Yeah. And I like listening to like one CD in entirety or so, one album in entirety. So the album overall had more of, or it clamored for more attention, or it actually forced me to listen to it far more deeply than Abolishing did.
And of course, this is prior to like streaming and singles and stuff like that.
Of course, so you are listening to CDs in entirety. Yeah. Right? You only carry one CD with you or two CDs with you at tops if you want variety in your day's music. But yeah, I remember wearing that CD out so much. So I actually asked Ashwin Sharma, I think, for another copy, which I still don't have.
I think I can get you one.
It's okay. I have the MP3s now. I think. Okay. Since we are speaking about this in the iTunes demise week, I would catalog all my things very well, and so I still have those MP3s.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyways, the days of Winamp. Kicking your llama's ass. Anyways, we digress too much. Let's bring it back to Amogh Symphony. Of course, after that is when I remember after Quantum Hack Code is when the world began to take notice of Vishal J Singh.
Yeah.
And like the forums and everything else, MySpace, etc., were rife with just discussion about who this guy is and why this guy may be the next frontier for the Indian music scene overall. Like he became heralded as the guy who could do no wrong, right? And then after that, we hear Vector Scan.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure like this is so. I've known Vishal and been in touch with him for years, and I quote him post the release of Vector Scan. He's like, people are gonna hate it. Everyone who's heard the previous stuff is just gonna hate it. And
yeah, it was a very left field release after setting up the expectation. Once you've heard Quantum as well as Abolishing.
Yeah, and I think with the release of their latest dual release, double album, 4, Part 1 and Part 2, if you listen to this and then go back to Vector Scan, I think it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, completely agreed with you, because I think now Amogh Symphony is finally, what's the word I'm trying to find? Is finally, like, he was always supremely confident, but I think now he doesn't care about the world accepting him.
Yeah. And he's reached a stage where he's like, this is what I'm doing, this is my music.
And that's
it.
That's the best way for an artist, and I'm doing air quotes again, which obviously people can't see because it's an audio podcast, but he is an artist.
Yeah.
And Amogh Symphony is his art project.
Yeah,
that's how I would classify it. And
I think that's a great way of putting it also. I don't know if it's the ideal thing from a listener point of view.
Yeah.
But as somebody who's followed their discography for a while, I mean, come on. If you're expecting like an Iron Maiden or a Judas Priest, then an AC/DC, for example.
Exactly. So I think there's a distinction here. There is a commercial band, and there is a non-commercial project, and both of them have the right to make fantastic music, whether it be for commercial reasons or not. But one can clearly classify Amogh Symphony as a non-commercial project in my head.
I don't think Vishal would disagree with you also, because the way he's looking at it, or the way he's making the music, and this goes back to even our last episode where we were talking to Daniel Tompkins, where he talked about the music and music being a release for you. And I'm noticing more of a trend with bands that are artists that I listen to, where for them music is more of a release or something they need to do, as opposed to, okay, I need to put in this album
because I'm contractually obligated by a
I need to
do
tour
it.
over it.
Yeah, those were the old days.
Yeah. And I think this is probably a result of the newer age of record labels, the music industry being more democratic in a way.
I think it's also to do with technology being so easily available now than it was in the past. I mean, you are completely... There's no boundaries of... come on, we are doing this in a room with a Zoom H4n recorder with 2 cheap mics plugged into them.
Yeah.
Right? Who would have thought, like, even 10 years ago that we'd be able to do this?
No, true.
Right?
True.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, so let's get it back on track. Amogh Symphony is out with, as you said, a double album. The first part was... the first part was, I think, released 7th May, and the second part
20th.
was released 21st May.
Yeah.
You can check them out, of course. And what we also recommend that you guys do is you log on to amoghsymphony.org, okay, which is the website for Amogh Symphony. And before diving into the album, just read through the lovely, exhaustive as fuck liner notes or FAQs that Vishal's put up.
And I think it adds a lot of context to the album in there.
Completely, it does. It fundamentally, to a lay person, it explains or kind of helps you understand where Vishal is. And I'm sorry, I know Amogh Symphony is a multi-people band, but to me, it's Vishal's band.
Yeah, and, we'll get together into so. The main difference I see in this album versus their previous releases, I mean, of course, Vector Scan and was two of them on drums, and you had Vishal. But this time you've got four very distinct personalities there. So you've got Tom, Andre, Derek, and Vishal. And I'm not going to give too much away, but I'm seeing them coming into their own as a band, possibly very soon.
Yeah, but I think the driving force behind this still remains Vishal, right? So, anyways, not to discount the other members in it at all. Okay, yeah. So, coming back to that, amoghsymphony.org. Please go up. Please read everything before you continue with this podcast. And before you continue with this podcast, also check out both the albums. Now, let's quickly discuss the album.
Sure.
Yeah. What did you make of 4?
Part 1, part 2, I mean, I can understand why they've separated them into 2 parts. Each part has like a part of a mix of their own with instrumental. Now, this is the first time also they've introduced like distinct vocal parts. Vishal singing, you have his mom also in there and stuff like that. So that's a bit of things.
And so many samples.
Yeah.
Across both parts.
Yeah. I mean, man, there's so much going on. So
it is, it takes a lot from you to keep listening to it. It's not something that you can put on in the background. Yeah. The closest mainstream release I would relate to this in this year would be Empath.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like if you were to give Vishal the kind of money that Devin put on Empath, I don't know what Vishal would make, because
dude,
I think Amogh Symphony would probably make the most what's the word, eclectic, not just eclectic, but the most confounding, if that could be a word to describe it.
Dude, I'm now that you're saying it, I'm just trying to think of all those choir parts on Empath, put it in an Amogh Symphony album. Because I know there's a brass band on here in the Amogh Symphony. So I'm just looking quickly through the track list. Straight up, if you listen to most of the songs, the one that really stands out on the first part for me is Everything Is Now in the Eye of the Sun. That's the more like single one. It has like that haunting, catchy chorusy part. But yeah, man, there's a lot going on in there.
I ended up enjoying the second part more than I did the first.
Yeah, and I think that's why they've separated it in a way. Yeah. So there's going to be people who are instantly going to like one part more than the other. And if you had it as an entire album, it would just be quite an exhaustive listen.
In the 2 parts, it already is. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's so much going on that you need to force yourself to keep revisiting parts just to wrap your heads around that.
And just going back to our conversation earlier about technology and stuff, imagine with the limitations of, say, your cassette or your CD, which you had, which was 90 or 80 minutes. You wanted to make as
the
an
most
independent.
Of you can.
So you'd like record till like the last 78th, 79th minute, or fill as much as you can. Or with the cassette, you'd like distinctly have 2 parts in there, side A, side B and stuff. With technology like this, since this is primarily a digital release now, you can easily do this. And it's so much more different. And it's the consumer at the end of the day. Now, unfortunately, when the day of streaming where people are more into singles. Yeah. But coming back to part 2, what was your favorite track of part 2?
The first track, the Cats one, that completely got me by surprise, because I wasn't, I mean, the title of the track itself, which is
Cat Scan in Narnia.
Yeah. That title itself throws you for a curveball, and then when that opening section kicks in and you hear the meow, I mean, it's like an inside joke or something, but I'm probably sure there's a lot more to it than just that. But that was a treat to listen to. The final track, which has that lovely Assamese vocals on it, folk songs on it, that's beautiful. Overall, so here's my take on the entire album. Overall, I feel that this is more of a personal record.
True.
I completely will say that this is an exploration of craft. Okay, this is essentially an artist trying to push his boundaries and see where he can push them to, increase his limits. And with that as the context, you begin to enjoy the album a lot more. To a casual listener, this won't be an easy listen, and neither will it be something that everybody will gravitate towards.
But I think that's with a lot of metal in general. I mean, of course, unless you pick your certain artists and things like that. If you look back at the artists that we initially enjoyed and stuff like that with metal, the reason why we listen to those artists or we enjoy those artists and say 10 other people don't, that there's a alluring factor to it, or there's something that has attracted us.
Of course. What I'm trying to say is this accessible music? No, it's not. And so, if it's not accessible, automatically the number of people who listen to it will come down.
Yeah.
But even to those number of people, it'll take time for them to actually digest this or enjoy this.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that this is a bad album or a bad listen or not a rich experience, because it definitely is a rich experience. It's just an acquired taste.
And it's quite an immersive experience.
It is like and it's best heard on headphones.
Yeah.
You need to just wrap yourself and cocoon yourself in that sound.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is not an album you can like listen to while working or kind of doing
or
other
while
chores
working out
Yeah.
or something of that sort. You need to pay attention to this because that's the best way to enjoy it.
So, yeah.
I think we agree on that.
True.
Yeah?
Completely.
Wow. So we've spoken about Amogh Symphony for quite a bit. We've kind of reviewed or just opined upon both parts 1 and 2, which leaves us with an interview which this time, Peter, you're doing solo. And I apologize for not being able to join you on that day. And Vishal, I know you're listening to this, so my apologies. I hope to catch up with you at some other time. I just couldn't be there for various other reasons. But Peter, you went all the way up to Thane to record this.
Yeah, man. Agreed, it was a Sunday and it was kind of easier to reach there than most parts of Bombay. But it was quite nice to catch up with Vishal after a while. Even though we've been in touch online and WhatsApp and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to finally catch up in person, speak about a lot of things, but most importantly, speak about 4. So let's dive in and listen to that interview then.
Yep, let's do that. I'm excited to listen to it. Here is Vishal J Singh from Amogh Symphony in conversation with Horns Up's Trent Crusher.
So we're here at Studio 604 in Thane. Got my good friend Vishal J Singh here. Welcome to Horns Up, Vishal.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I'm glad we could finally sit down and get a chance to do this.
It's been a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, I appreciate you taking out the time also, man.
I have to, especially when Peter is here. I mean, you're one of the few closest friends who actually listen to my music since quite a long time.
Yeah, and actually we'll get into the history a little bit, but just to warm things up a little bit, your 4th album, long awaited, I must add, and at least the first part has been released. So how does it feel, man?
Feels like, actually I'm feeling very relieved.
Okay.
Because, that the first stage is writing of all the songs, Then second stage, producing, finalizing structures. And then the third stage, you wait for the release thing, which is quite a stressful, and it's like sometimes, even though it's completely your own baby, and you want it to be heard, but somewhere deep inside you get that feel, are people gonna like it or not? It happens at least once.
Yeah.
So that feel was there, but it came out feeling much relieved, and my bandmates are quite happy because they were supposed to kill me if I'm not. They're like, I've been warned by my bandmates like 3 times, if you're not releasing this album this year, we are actually thinking of hiring someone to kill you.
We'll get more into that, but on the podcast and in previous episodes, what we've done is talked about just how our past guests have got into music, metal specifically. So let's start off with, what was it like growing up for you? Like, I know that you've come from a musical family. So what was the kind of music that was playing growing up? How is it really?
I started music at a very early age, about 5 or 6 years old. But I started as a listener.
Okay.
And initially, when I discovered music, I think I discovered at my late grandmother's house, where she used to teach different instruments, piano, Western classical, jazz, traditional Assamese songs, and then like another room, my uncle, he's a flamenco Spanish style guitar player, so he's teaching all other styles of music. And we have another uncle who is a percussionist, and this is very distracting. I think we need to stop. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Can we stop?
So we're sticking to Amogh, huh?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So Vishal, tell me about. So you come from a musical family. What was it like growing up? What was the kind of music you were listening to?
Earlier, I listened to a lot of music. It was not just rock and roll. A lot of Western classical, a lot of Hindustani classical, also a lot of Spanish music, but mostly a lot of folk music.
Okay.
And then my brother introduced me to like heavy metal.
Right.
And that was, I think I was like around 10, 11 years old.
Oh. And what was it like? I mean, what is the first album, if I can ask?
Yes, it was it was this cassette called Guns N' Roses, that the band was called Guns N' Roses. Of course, everyone knows. The album was Spaghetti Incident.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And strangely, I think all of them are covers, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So covers played by a glam rock band, but in a very different style. So that, I think, that was something that I really liked.
Dude, I still remember, I must add this. I still remember listening to Spaghetti Incident, and I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan. And I was like, okay, what's going on this album? Who are these guys, man? These are not the guys who wrote Appetite for Destruction and stuff like that. And then I look it up and realize it's covers. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it was, so basically you're getting the point. The first metal album, I would say metal because that was very heavy for me. And I just realized that these are cover songs. These are not their original songs. And after that, my brother's best friend, he asked me, like, what all bands do you listen to? And and I was like, I think Guns N' Roses is my favorite band. I was very young that time.
Yeah.
He said, that is not metal, bro. Okay, then what is metal? Then he made me listen to Sepultura.
Oh, wow.
And Sepultura, then he made me listen to some other bands. I think, Iron Maiden.
Wow.
Metallica. Did not like Metallica at all at first, but I loved Iron Maiden so much. So much that it actually inspired me to learn the Iron Maiden songs on drums.
Wow.
So the first album was, I think, again, it was a very underrated album, X Factor.
Wow. Okay. So now this is the thing. A lot of people that we've interviewed in the past talk about their shared love most of the musicians, Metallica, Iron Maiden. But I think you're the first person that has come on the show saying they liked X Factor. So I'm very curious to know why.
I know, right? So when I actually listened to X Factor, I was very attracted to the whole, I think, the song arrangement. It was very different for me. The time signature changes, the many changes, and I thought that's what the sound of Iron Maiden is. But then I listened to the other albums, and I felt like those albums were a little outdated.
Okay.
And it was, a moment where I just felt like maybe they wanted to change their songwriting, their style or something. Then I was reading about the reviews in RSJ and other magazines. No, I think Rock Street Journal was the only Indian magazine at that time.
Rock Street Journal.
Yes.
Animesh and I have pledged our love and talked so much about it on the show. But man, props to Amit
we used to travel to a different town to buy that magazine. I still remember that.
Man, I think Rock Street Journal was the internet for us back in the day. And,
yes, actually.
That's the only way you'd read about what's happening in the Indian scene, international scene also. There was no internet back then. Very true.
Rock Street Journal was very responsible for the popularity about the local bands because I discovered, and plus they used to come up with compilation cassettes.
Yeah.
It was very amazing because there was no other medium to discover these bands. And when I heard Millennium...
Oh yeah, dude. Millennium, the early stuff.
Then I heard Moksha.
Wow, again,
I was like, wow, we have such amazing bands in India. I mean, of course, I've seen bands in Northeast, but listening to these bands, it was a different experience. So it was a mix of everything. As in, I listened to a lot of Indian artists, plus I've listened to a lot of...
Who's your first Indian, other than Millennium and Moksha, the first Indian band that really had an impact on you?
It was actually a solo artist. That was Trilok Gurtu.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was actually listening to, by that time, I think I turned 13 or something, I was listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin. John Bonham was one of my biggest influence as a drummer. And... my dad was saying that Led Zeppelin is a great band, but John Bonham is also an amazing drummer. You should listen to Trilok Gurtu. I was like, okay, let me hear it. And when I heard it, I was I think it was the album called Crazy Saints.
Okay.
It was released in 1992, if I'm not wrong. I was totally blown away by his time signatures, the way he plays the drums. It sounded like it doesn't sound like a drummer would play something like this. So I was very inspired, and I was like, it's like you have a book of mathematics, and you are very curious to solve each and every problem. Yeah. So for me, Trilok's album Crazy Saints was like that. I want to know what exactly he played, how he played, what are the techniques he used. So that motivated me to spend a lot of time on the drums. And similarly, I discovered other guitar players. So, that's how usually I started listening. So it was a mix of jazz, metal, folk music, all types of, music. So it's... I never stopped listening to, bands as in from different genres.
Sure.
Because I wanted to make sure that if I'm listening to a particular song, suppose if it's a jazz song, say there was a song by Miles Davis, and there's a particular section in that song which I really like, but I started, fantasizing in my head, what if this section comes after a very heavy breakdown?
I'm not going to... I know where you're going with this. And I'm sure a lot of people who've been listening to Amogh Symphony lately kind of getting the genesis of where these ideas are coming from. But we'll hold on to those thoughts for a couple minutes more. Okay. I know you've established kind of that drums was the first instrument you picked up.
That's
Am I
right.
correct?
That's right.
I mean, how many instruments do you play at the moment?
I don't really... At this point, after years of playing, I don't really consider myself as a proper instrumentalist. I would love to add that, because I think I'm a very horrible drummer, a very horrible guitar player, a very horrible bassist, a very horrible keyboard player, Yeah.
But you still manage. I mean, for those who are listening to this and have just heard what Vishal said, he's the guy that played the drums on the new Amogh Symphony album. But we'll hold that for a few minutes more. But yeah, man, have you taken music lessons?
Initially, at beginning, no, honestly.
Okay.
So it was all ear training. I think I would say my first training was that initially 4 or 5 years I only listened to music. That really helped me to understand a lot of things. And it started with me visiting my grandmother's house and finding a soft spot, a common soft spot I could say, where I can hear all the different, because there's one room where my grandma is teaching instrument to some kids. There's another room in the house where one of my uncles is teaching guitar. There's another room, another uncle is teaching percussions. So I found a spot in the house. It's a big house, right? So I could hear all these instruments together, and they sound like something else. Because
this sounds like, I don't know, musical paradise to me. Man.
So it sounded very different to me. That was my introduction to music. That was something that I loved. It, that first love,
Yeah.
So from then, from that moment onwards, I've discovered my love for bringing different elements into the music. So then I realized that I have to start listening to more music to find out, to know what all things happened in the past.
Okay.
So that at least I can try to create something else.
But so I'm not going to ask you the most obvious question is, did you know you wanted to have a band then? But so no formal music lessons at all?
No, absolutely not. Wow. But later on, my dad helped a little bit.
Okay.
And my mom, she also helped. I studied the theory, but very, very much later.
All right.
Initial 3-4 years, even my parents, my grandma, my uncles also said, let him learn by his own.
All right.
Because my uncle, he's a very renowned music composer in Assam and eldest brother of my mom. So he told me that you have to find your own sound, and this is your time for 5 years. We will see, because automatically at some point of time you will stop. And from that moment onwards, you will need the basics. So then we will teach you what music theory is all about.
Wow.
So that's how it started.
Yeah, man. Shout out to your uncle for all that influence he had in your early life, man.
Yes.
Because that sounds like a very different perspective for most musician families, where it's like, you learn the piano. No, you learn this instrument.
No. So my uncle, I'm very thankful to my uncle, even my dad. So my dad was more into the intelligent side of songwriting.
Okay.
So the whole experimental thing actually came from my dad. But the whole musical, that feel, emotion perspective, the entire existence of emotions in music, that part came from my mom and from my uncle. Wow. Because they're like completely into music. Although my dad was also a musician, but he was more into science and technology. He was like a nerd guy. So,
it sounds like I can see where, the early seeds of Amogh Symphony was set, all the thing. But yeah, man, that's great to hear this. But any embarrassing recordings of your early bands that we might surface, or anything that you've been trying to remove from the internet? Tell us about the early bands that were there, that you were part of.
Yeah, actually, my first band, it was called Touch and Tune.
Where was this?
This was a very long time back, man. I think it was 98 or something.
But where was it?
This was in Assam.
Okay.
Assam. So my cousin, she was the vocalist. And there was one guitar player, bass player. We used to play only covers mostly. Bee Gees, Santana, and ABBA. So it was good. Initially it was all good. But then, I'm talking about 98, 99. So, all the Indian bands, they used to play a lot of covers.
Yeah.
I mean, there were any band who, worked on their originals. Except for a few bands, of course.
Yeah.
So, I was very bored of that whole thing, that why do we have to play covers only? And even if we have to play covers, why can't we use include our own ideas and make the covers a little interesting. And then it's like, because I was very young and non-experienced, so I used to hear these words like, no, you can't play like this. It's a cover, so you have to respect the artist. You have to play exactly how the song is. And I was like, nah. So that was, for me, the good advantage was that I learned a lot of songs, and I start observing the song arrangement, how different it is to play a song in a studio, write a song, and performing the same song on stage. So the difference you can figure out. There's always a difference on that. So it really helped me that way. But I think after that, I really wanted to play in a band who are like very heavy, because I was slowly getting into metal. And I think.
So wait, did you have a new metal phase?
Yeah, totally. That was.
Limp Bizkit.
Yes,
Linkin
with spikes. Which I had spike hair. Yes, spiked hair.
Are there embarrassing photos of you?
Oh my God! I don't even want anyone to see that. We had a photo shoot. Okay, in Pune. Pune was the city when I started playing metal.
Right.
And my first band, that was my second band. So it was called Infinite Ashes.
Okay.
Vedant Kaushik, famous vocalist who now sings with Third Sovereign.
Yeah.
So he used to be the vocalist in that band, and I was in Bangalore, and I was supposed to become a doctor.
Wow.
First year MBBS. Yeah. I don't know what kind of doctor I could be, but yeah, that's what happened. So I got a call from Vedant. He called me from Pune and said, "Bro, we formed the band." By the way, Vedant, like all the band members from that band are from the same hometown.
Okay.
So Vedant called me over phone and says, "Bro, we formed at first he said we formed a thrash metal band, and we need a drummer." So I said, "Yeah, good, all the best. No, we want you as the drummer." And I felt like, "Whoa, really? You want me to play? Like what kind of songs?" He says, "We're gonna play, Slipknot, Lamb of God." And then I was like, "Okay, are we going to play any originals?" He says, "Yes, we do have originals." Okay, so we want your help to write down the songs, compose the songs. Are you interested to join the band? I said, Totally. But you're studying MBBS. What? What is MBBS? Right. Says, "Will you be able to travel from Bangalore to Pune?" I says, "If you can help me out with finding a place to stay in Pune, I'll just leave Bangalore immediately now."
Wow.
So he said, "Okay, you're going to stay with me." And then I asked my brother about this is the situation. He says, "Okay, go ahead." Wow. What about mom and dad? I said, "We'll take care of the situation later. First you go do your stuff that you want to do." Because I did not want to become a doctor.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And we packed the drum kit, went to Pune, started playing, started writing a lot of songs, small jam rooms, sweaty jam rooms. And my drum kit was very big. So finding a jam room where I can fit my drum kit was the biggest problem. And, disturbed, angry neighbors complaining, all that things happened in Pune. We did a couple of shows. Actually, many shows we've done. Response was pretty good. We played a lot of originals, a lot of new metal covers. And again, I left the band after I think 8 months. I left the band because I felt like the songwriting, the whole vision of the band was very lost. It was just for me it's very almost impossible to work with people, musicians or any creative artist who lives with that mentality that the kind of music I make or I listen to is the topmost, and any other style of music is just like crap. Yeah. So that I find a little disturbing because that for me it stops me from growing.
Fair enough.
And that was the problem with the band, and they just wanted to stick to playing nu metal, and the originals were just copy paste kind of stuff. And I was stopped from being the composer also. So I think we had a long argument, and I think it was Vedant's birthday. I hope he's not listening. So it was his birthday, and there's another band called Black Hole Theory was there.
Yeah,
used to be one of the
of course. Naveen
yes,
was the
Naveen
drummer
Deshpande,
then,
who's the mixtape's owner now.
Yeah.
So we had this birthday party celebration, and I got drunk. Actually, we all got drunk, and we had a big fight.
Okay.
I think that was the last time I saw this guys.
So now that you talk about this, and I kind of see where the genesis or the seeds for Amogh Symphony were kind of set in your childhood. What kind of stemmed? I mean, of course, you come from this bad band experience where you were held back and stuff. So at what point did you decide to start Amogh Symphony? Or were you already thinking of Amogh Symphony back then?
Yeah, so I started writing the songs from a very early stage before I joined any band.
Okay.
So I used to record some basic ideas. I had this Zoom 1010 guitar processor. I think they stopped manufacturing this long time back. And then I always imagine how would it sound when I play these songs with an entire band. And I tried these songs with all the bands which I was a part of. Unfortunately, it did not work out because I think maybe people were not ready for that.
Okay.
And maybe because it was a little too different for their taste.
Yeah.
And it was just lying there, but I never stopped making those ideas, recording those ideas. So I kept recording and kept writing, and like from sometimes in between the jam, I just show some of these riffs, guitar riffs, and all this drum beat patterns to my bandmates. And they're like, yeah, it sounds great, man, but way too complicated. I don't think we can play this live. I said, no, I just played it right in front of you.
But it's interesting that you bring that point because I still remember, so I lived in Dubai at this time.
Right.
And I was just kind of getting into or discovering the Indian metal scene and, figuring out the different bands are there. And I know you know where I'm coming from because you have this big smile in your face because it's been 10 years since abolishing the obsolete system. And I still remember the first time I heard the album, or I can't remember which single for the life of me because it's been that long. But my reaction was no different from your bandmates at that time. But I was like, is this an actual guy playing this? And, of course, this was a time where you had a lot of people being trolls online or, stealing stuff or, taking gigpad.com and RSJ. So I was partly convinced that it could be a real person. I was partly convinced that, it's some guy trolling everyone. There's no way someone can actually play it. So, yeah. And I still remember being amazed. And then slowly there were other friends of mine who were into the Indian scene who were like, hey, dude, have you heard this Amogh Symphony guy? Who the hell is he? Like, because no one really knew. And I think this was the time pre-social media also.
Yeah.
I think Facebook also wasn't around.
No. It was I uploaded the entire album on MySpace.com.
Yeah, I still remember. The MySpace was the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, for those of you listening and don't remember MySpace, man, you missed out.
Yes.
But
good old days.
Good old days. And that's where you kind of discovered bands. So just tell me, what was it like recording that album? I mean, I can't believe it's been over a decade since then. What are your memories of that?
Wow, actually a lot of memories. When I actually almost finished writing the songs, I mean, not produce, of course. When I finished the songs, I think by that time I already came to Bombay.
Okay.
And I was studying audio engineering.
Right.
Under the guidance of Mujib Dadakar sir, and then Daman Sood. These are all top engineers at that time. Also, I wanted to experiment with song music production and the whole aspect of DAW and recording technology. And I had no other music to record except for my own songs. I also wanted to make a band, get them to the studio and record the entire thing, but just calculated the entire costing first, which was back then. Yes. And hiring a studio for recording at that time, like I'm talking about 2008, 2009, was literally impossible. And then I talked to many musicians, top musicians in Bombay. So it's like, all like good musicians are still amazing musicians. When I spoke to one of the drummers who was known to be one of the top till date, top jazz drummers in Bombay. So when I asked him, like, would you like to play the drums in these songs? So he was very honest. He told me that, look, I'm very comfortable with the jazz parts, but the metal sections are impossible for me to play. So you need to find someone who can play both the styles. Then I found another drummer who used to be one of the top death metal drummers. I think you know him.
Probably.
Yeah. He worked with Trilok.
Okay.
So at that time he was totally into extreme death metal, and he was probably the only drummer in Bombay who could pull up like 200 plus BPM hyperblast.
Okay. Yeah.
And I asked him, and he said, I can play all the metal sections, but the jazz sections are impossible for me to play. Then I met guitar players, asked them, would you like to play the guitar parts? They said, no, bro, I can play the metal sections. This is super complicated jazz for me. Then I asked an electronics artist, and he was actually a DJ. I asked him, would you like to produce the electronic section? He says, I don't know how to compose this kind of electronic sections, especially in a song like this. This is jazz, this is metal. What would you call it? I don't know. So I don't have a vision for this. I cannot help you. Then in the end, I just realized that, this is not going anywhere. I would record it myself, playing all the instruments. And that's how it just happened. I just begged my senior, Mr. Sood, that, sir, please give me the studio for 2 days. Let me record it.
Hang on. You recorded the entire album in 2 days?
Yes.
Wow.
So it was all me doing multi-takes and stuff. And I had to, because I got the studio for free.
Yeah.
And so all the rest job, whatever editing, mix, post work, was mixing, mastering, was done at my friend's studio.
Okay.
That was a different part, because I could not get the studio for that.
Fair enough.
And I had no money to, invest on it. So I recorded everything, and I was actually a little, what would you call? Unhappy with the fact that I came to Bombay with the hope that I'll find better musicians, but that did not work out. So, and everybody's like, you need musicians to record an album. Why would you play everything by yourself? You're not an expert. You need better musicians, better instrumentalists to play these songs. And I was totally against that thought. So that's why I named the albums Abolishing the Obsolete System.
But tell me, now that you've gone so much into this, were you surprised with the response? What was the whole reaction, or what were you expecting back then from the album?
Well, the album was, it's a way, I have this nature that if I write a song, if I compose a song, I cannot let it rot inside my computer. But this is like, if I say today I compose a song, and if it's lying in my DAW in my computer for more than 2 months, I start getting those anxiety feels, and it just starts disturbing me, It's like something is not going out of your mind. This needs to go out.
Okay.
So Abolishing was that album that I actually wanted to share with people. And I, very honestly, frankly speaking, I did not really think about what will happen. But I used to read all those forums of progressive music and everything, and the Yahoo chat days, metal chat.
Because if I'm not mistaken, this is a clear case of like something going viral. Because this, I don't think there was any PR around it or anything else.
Not at all.
And I'm 100% sure there wasn't any message someone sent. It was probably someone posting on the RSG or GigPad forums.
Yes.
And that's all.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure, did anyone even know who Vishal J Singh was back then?
No, I don't think so. Oh, yeah. I have to tell you one more thing about this. So at the same time, I used to visit to the studios and filmmakers and production houses because I wanted job, as a songwriter, as a producer. In those days, you have to give your CD as a showreel
Correct.
to them. They listen to it and they get back to you. That was used to happen in those days.
Yeah.
And then I realized this thing was not working. So I had to make a shout, like what exactly I am, what I'm capable of. So that was also one of the intention of releasing the album, Abolishing the Obsolete System. So I started getting a lot of good response, comments. The number of plays was super amazing. So next, after the album release, when I used to meet these producers, filmmakers, do you want to share any of your showreel work? I said, just Google search my band's name, Amogh Symphony. It's just the first link appears on myspace.com. Yeah, is this your band? Yeah. Oh, you have quite some fans, huh? People are liking your music. Yeah. So this is the psychology I noticed, that they want someone who has the ability to become a little popular, not that he's a very good songwriter or something. Because they've noticed, they've seen all the comments, the number of plays, likes, then they started playing the music, started streaming the music, and then they thought, this is something interesting happening. This is little interesting music is going on. I really like the second song, which I'm listening to right now. So then I said, would you like to give me some work? I said, great, I will. I have this film project. Would you like to help me out with the background score? Yes. So,
that's some vital tips for upcoming songwriters, the producers. But let's fast forward a bit, because for people who've been following your discography a bit, they would have, or at least someone like me, there was a stark change in the sound on your third album, Vector Scan. I mean, if I can quote you on this, when we spoke just before the release of the album, you were like, everyone's going to hate it. So just tell me,
actually a lot of people hated it.
So what kind of inspired or got you to change this sound?
Yeah, so my first album, like already you mentioned, Abolishing the Obsolete System, that was released in 2009.
Yeah.
After that, the second album was the Quantum Hack Code, 2010, immediately next year. So
and if I could put it in a kind of genre, this was easily like technical metal.
Yes, I would say progressive rock, technical death metal with a lot of electronic influences.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that when I was working on these songs, I could not. I used to be very regular in the forums where I read people, musicians, fans talking about what is good, what is bad, what kind of music should we listen to. Like the future sound of bands. They discuss, like some guys in the forum talk about, I wish we could have a band who could write a song like Jethro Tull, at the same time he could write a song like Cryptopsy. So I used to read all these things, and they used to hit my mind all the time. Wow, people do believe in these kind of ideas. There are few of them, but still there are possibilities. What if these possibilities become real? So when the Quantum Hack Code came out, after that I just wasn't happy with the sound, although the response was pretty amazing. The most popular was, I think, the Quantum Hack Code.
Yeah.
And we had some super sales also for that. The problem was, I noticed all other bands from US and Europe was doing the same style of music.
Yeah, and this, I think, what you're talking about was also the rise of what now everyone kind of looks down upon, but yes, I'm going to say it, the gent word.
Yeah.
Man, this is when like progressive rock or progressive metal became gent, and then everyone kind of took that sound and it became the template, man.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you can say, I wouldn't say unfortunately actually, Animals as Leaders also released their album.
Yeah.
And Tosin, he texted me like, bro, like, I love your stuff. That's like, hey, great. So also a lot of fans, a lot of people started comparing the sound with Animals Leaders, because coincidentally our sound was a little similar, because I used to play a lot of tapping and some advanced guitar playing techniques.
Yeah.
And Tosin was also into that. And Tosin's sound was also mixed with electronica. And Amogh Symphony's sound was also same. So it was not something that I was comfortable with, because then I saw a lot of other bands started following the same sound. And this is something which is in my nature. I'm born with this nature, actually. I can't change that. If something becomes very popular, like even if it's my own creation, I immediately start hating it. It means that I'm outdated.
Vishal, there's a word for it. It's called your old school.
No. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm old school with that. Right. So, no, but I really wanted to go a little above songwriting. I wanted to change it because I felt like I need to work on my songwriting more, because whatever is happening now, I have to be able to express myself honestly. And Amogh Symphony is very personal to me. I mean, each and every song that you listen to, it's coming from the experience, not just musical experience, but also, what life taught me in all these years. So I felt like if I have to express myself properly, then I need to make sure that I stand slightly different or slightly taller. I wouldn't say taller. You have to make a voice that people would listen to. Like somebody had said something which is not common these days. So for me, it was very important, and I decided to not release any album at least for the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And after that, I just restart, working on my old song ideas, basics, music theory, going back to the basics. And then vector scan just happened, and just, yes, now let me produce this album.
Yeah.
And vector scan was very different.
Yeah. And now on your latest album, you're joined by Tom. I'm not going to get into his surname.
We call him Tom Gelschlager.
Gelschlager, okay.
Gelschlager.
Who most people would know as Fountainhead.
Fountainhead.
The ex-guitarist of Obscura. He's also played live with Defeated Sanity,
yes.
And I don't know how many more bands, man. But also you've got Derek Gomes.
That's right.
Again, am I missing out on any bands or anything else he's been a part of?
Oh, no. Actually, Derek, I would like to mention, a lot of people have been asking me. Derek is from Portugal, but he's actually an Indian.
Okay.
He's from Bombay.
Okay.
Derek used to work. He's a brilliant songwriter, but his specialty is he's a mix of a sound engineer and an electronic artist.
All right.
And he's also a brilliant vocalist and songwriter.
Right.
He used to work with Ram Sampath.
Okay.
And then he moved to Portugal.
Okay. And you've got also Andrei Sazonov.
That's right.
Who, again, is a multi-instrumentalist.
Andrei Sazonov is probably the most talented member in the band. Like, all three of us are like nowhere close to his skill when it comes to, experimental sounds.
But here's the $1 million question.
Yes.
How do 4 of you form a band together? I mean, how did the 3 of them decide to be a part of Amogh Symphony?
Peter, the best thing is, we can actually, I talked about this with Derek. We can actually have a fight and break up tomorrow. And day after tomorrow, we can just write a song together. Why? We're not a touring band. Doesn't even matter that we're together or not.
Yeah, and actually you've kind of picked a question in mind, but I'm going to ask that later. But yeah, man, how so just tell me, if you could briefly, quickly tell me, how did each one of them get on board on the album?
So, more than instrumentalists, I was looking for songwriters and producers. Why? Because working with an instrumentalist means, like, say, if you have a bass player as a member, so sometimes it's not necessary, but in my case, I'm expecting the bass player to be a little more than a bass player. Means he needs to know what exactly the song is, and when I'm playing something on the guitar or drums, he needs to have that vision as a songwriter, but not as like, I have no interesting part to play in the song. These kind of thoughts, it happens in many bands, in progressive rock bands, and technical death metal bands. So I was looking for members who are into more or less the same kind of field of work. Like, I'm a music composer and producer, and my main source of income is composing music for films, ads and stuff, which means you must know at least 10-15 different genres of music, and you need that skill to write different styles of songs. And this whole mindset of songwriting, this whole mindset is very different from someone who has a day job and plays in a band.
Yeah.
And I was looking for someone like me, and it took me some time to figure that out, but Andre is like that. So Andre is, he teaches music, and he's a very brilliant composer. He makes music for ads and games and stuff. Then Derek also makes music for ads, jingles, and films background scores. So you get the point. My music is very concept based.
Yeah.
So I use my skill as a background music composer as well. So I don't have to tell them what exactly is required. So Andre never comes to me and asks me that, bro, I need a piano solo in this. I have to play a piano solo. No, these kind of conversations never happen between us.
So I must cut you off for a second because you've kind of eaten into my next question. How is the songwriting process? If you have, like with most bands, if you look at it, there's a primary songwriter,
Right.
but here in a way, it's four, literally. So who generally comes up with the song idea, at least for the last album?
Oh, well, it's mixed, I would say. Our songwriting style is in 4 was very different from the first 3 albums.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I used to think of ideas and concepts and stuff like that, and then start recording the parts, composing the tunes, melodies. So my personal, when I start with myself as a songwriter, especially for Amogh Symphony, which are mostly instrumental songs, right? So it's very important for me to chart out the entire song right on my head. Like I tell this as a like my own DAW, which is inside my brain. So I imagine the song as a storyline, which helps me to think about the dynamic ups and downs and the changes.
But I'm sorry, I'm cutting you short here,
Yeah.
but because for me as a listener,
Yeah.
a lot of the music, like if you take from the early albums primarily,
Right.
It's very visual and story driven. So does the story come first for you, or the music, or how does it work?
It used to be only story first and then music later, but we discovered from this Vector Scan onward, like when I finished Vector Scan, I just realized that it can be, you can write a musical piece and then plan up an entire story on that. And then we figured out you can actually come up with more than 15, 20 stories based on the same song.
Yeah.
That's also a perspective because we are instrumental song.
Yeah.
So instrumental can be it can be anything. True. And this is again the definition of avant garde.
And it also, if you think about it, the beautiful part for those of you who've heard the album, right, is that 4 of us sitting in a room can listen to the exact same song but have complete personal experiences about it. And
yes.
I'm kind of giving away, but this is the same discussion we had with Nolan Lewis on our Iron Maiden discussion.
Nolan from Cryptos.
Yeah, from Cryptos.
I love that guy, man.
Yeah. So we were having a discussion about how for all of us, Iron Maiden was completely different. Each one of us had a complete personal experience. And that was the beauty of that music, to go back to what you're talking about.
Right.
All right, man. We've talked a lot about the music and the album and your history. Let's listen to a track from the album. Which one? And please tell us why.
I would like to play the song. It's called Birds.
Okay.
It's from, I think, AS4 Part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that song I'm very proud of. It has a music video out. And the song is, when I was writing the song, it was dedicated to, the whole concept was dedicated to the whole internet generation where people, make trolls, people become memes, and the whole argument on each other, and how there's a invisible fight between the real feminist and the pseudo-feminist. And, all these arguments, all these things that sometimes we think it's quite entertaining, but at the same time, it's affecting us when we consider it as a entertainment. So that's why I named it Birds, because birds are like free. They're free to fly anywhere. But like it's a question that, is this freedom really creating some mess? Because are we getting too much freedom to do everything?
Right.
So
and on that note, here's Birds from the second part of Amogh Symphony 4. Right, and that was Birds from Amogh Symphony 4, the second part. So, is this a premiere of sorts for the track? I don't know, unless you watch the music video. But yeah, man, just moving on quickly for the album, you've got some great guests. I mean, for those of you who've read the liner notes, which quite extensive, I must say, Vishal put up. You've got, of course, the legendary Sean Reinert from Cynic, Vritam
Sankakoti.
Yeah, Deep Sikya, yes. And of course, not to forget your mom, Kasturi Nath Singh. Yeah. Yes. So, how does, I mean, you've already got 4 members of a band. How does you get further guests? And of course, big names also, man.
Yeah. I think the biggest name is Sean Reinert.
How did that happen?
It's a nice story. So my very good friend Anton. So Anton used to work with Sig Drummer Magazine.
Okay.
And he's a very good old friend. And he's someone who keeps promoting Amogh Symphony in US. I mean, if Amogh Symphony is known in US for, among the musicians, it's because of Anton, because he keeps promoting.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Anton. Keep doing that.
Yes. He's a very good friend, close friend, and a brother. So I was asking Anton that I was thinking to invite a guest musician on this album, like at least for one song. Do you have someone in your mind? And he took the name Sean. And Sean Renard. Are you out of your mind? Said, no. Sean is a good friend of mine. I can talk to him about this. And if he likes the music, he would love to play. And Anton introduced Sean, and in the mail. And I was not expecting to hear such a, welcome behavior, welcome, generous feel from him, because he was so nice, Sean. Yeah. And I told him that, I'm actually a big fanboy.
Of course,
I'm having a moment right now. I've seen you with that, the music video. I actually followed your drum playing style. And he was so nice that, I've seen you, I heard your music a lot, man. It's out of the world. And he just said that, and I was like, wow. Yeah. So it's a big lesson. And then I asked him, like, would you like to play a song with me? He says, definitely. I said, I will send you all the songs. You choose which song you would love to play. And he said, I would love to play a song called Enduring Freedom since 1947.
Yeah, that's quite cool to hear, man, especially from a legendary musician like that. I had the good fortune of...
It was quite a learning process for me, because Sean, he completely wrote all the drum parts, and it sounds very different, and I really loved his vision, because Sean is also a brilliant music composer. Yeah. He does music for a lot of films and ads in US. So again, his vision as a someone who makes music for films and stuff. So we talked on that basis, that our experiences making music for films and everything. He talked about his experience, and it was more of a personal chat, and it was very inspiring, and he gave me a lot of motivation to work on my music, and he keeps saying that this is sounding really amazing. I think what you can do is this and that, and he was very open-minded. It's very hard to find metal musicians out that open-minded.
No, I agree, and I actually had the good fortune of seeing Cynic live once.
Yeah.
And one of the things which completely struck me to what you're talking is the cool part was Sean was actually at the merch stall post the gig.
I saw that picture.
Yeah, man, I sent it to you, and yes. It was really cool because you'd never think for a band like that they'd be standing at the merch stall meeting fans post gig. So yeah, that was one of the highlights of that weekend for me, man.
A great guy, man.
Yeah. Talking about vision, do you feel now looking back that your vision for Amogh Symphony has changed from your first album to now? And what would you attribute?
I wouldn't say the vision has changed. The vision is still the same.
Okay.
It's very honest expression. It's a freedom of expression and art for me. And I never started Amogh Symphony I never started Amogh Symphony to be a touring artist or someone who is going to sell a lot of CDs or something. Because, it's a psychological state, what you see, what you hear. So for me, I was introduced music at a very early age. So it's growing and it's growing and it's growing, no? So I really love to learn so much about myself through music. And plus, like, I'm now 30 plus. So the taste in music hasn't changed a lot. I still listen to all kinds of music. Like, if I feel like listening to some very heavy stuff from the 80s, I would love to listen to that. If I feel like listening to some new band, like discover on the internet. So it's very important for me, and that's something that keeps me alive as a songwriter. You always get influenced by your surrounding.
Okay.
And the vision is still the same, that the music, whatever I'm trying to, speak out, whatever I learned in my childhood, I think I want to share it with the musicians and people all around the world It's let it grow automatically, like naturally, the way exactly how I was born, like how I grown up with the music and the whole perspective of songwriting. I think that is more important for me. And style has changed. I don't really enjoy playing very technical heavy stuff anymore, but who knows, maybe the next album can have some moments.
I'm sure there are some fans of the first couple of albums that are like, yay at this point. But now, this is again a little toughy for sorts. So, listening to your latest album, a lot of people might describe it as art for art's sake. Would you agree to that? Disagree? Why?
I wouldn't mind if they call it pop, to be very frank.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind if they call it something else. Like in Quantum Hackord, someone came up with this title called soundtrack metal, and someone wrote robot jazz about vector scan. So a lot of people have their own, way of expressing and interpreting. So I'm cool with anything. If it can be just art rock, it can be avant-garde rock, it can be progressive rock. Honestly, I'm cool with anything.
Right. You talked about the videos. So one video I really must ask, since it's out, Everything Is Now in the Eyes of the Sun.
Yeah.
It's quite a haunting and dark video, if I could say so.
Yes.
What was your brief to Niranjan, who's kind of worked on the video? What was your idea? Or how did you approach it, really?
Yeah, so Niranjan was my bandmate Andre's discovery.
Okay.
So he told me that there is one guy in India. Do you know him? Like who? And Niranjan Raghu. So I've never heard this name before. He's from Bangalore, and he linked me up to some of his works, Niranjan's works. And I was like very impressed. Like I've never seen anyone doing this kind of visions. And he's a master in 3D.
Yeah. And one thing I must add about the video, for those of you who have not seen it, it's not your typical band video. 4 guys in a dark jam room or stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is very abstract, artsy kind of stuff.
Yeah, so Niranjan is into art filmmaking. So he's an avant-garde filmmaker. So he makes short films. And he's also a very good music composer, by the way. He also produces some interesting ambient music stuff. So the communication was not a big problem, because he knows musically how it is and he can connect it visually. So I approached Niranjan. I asked him that, would you like to make a music video for this? Now, before I approached him, I actually discussed the concept of making music videos with my bandmates. And they all agreed that instead of we appearing in the music video playing with a green chroma background, we better work on the theme of the songs, because a lot of people don't understand what exactly are we talking about in the songs. So let's take 2 songs and we make music videos. Now, this is the most trickiest part. So with Niranjan, the concept of the song Everything Is Now in the Eye of the Sun was very different when we were writing it.
Okay.
The concept was very different.
Okay.
It was related to the sun, but it was very different. The lyrics are written by Derek. Mostly by Derek. Then we wrote the song in a way that it can mean anything. Any listener who listens to the song can relate the song to something else also, something which is personal. Then Niranjan was asking me that, do you have a particular concept? Do you have a thought behind the song? I said, we have many thoughts, but in this case, we want you to see from your own vision. Like say, you don't really have to know what exactly we thought about it. You think about it. And he said, let me hear the song and I'll get back to you. And then he sent me this first draft of the script right after 4 days.
Wow.
And we were like shocked. Wow. He came up with a brilliant story. And he asked me that if you want to improvise on the script, let me know. So I added some of my parts into the script. And I told him to improvise again. So script improvisation was a long process, but finally we came up with something interesting. So he said that the song to me is about what's gonna happen tomorrow when when we won't be able to survive on this earth because the sun is like this. All the way things are turning into these days. So it was amazing, and Niranjan's concept is quite dark, and surreal kind of filmmaking. It's amazing.
For those who haven't seen it, I'm going to put it in the show notes for this. Now, you've alluded a bit to this, so I'm going to throw this question in your court. What do you feel are the pros and cons of being a studio band in India?
Okay. Well, I have to. Do I really have to say this? Okay. So till date,
if you're up for it, whatever. I mean,
no.
Or just keep it.
No,
brief.
it's a good question. Actually, it's a very good question. So the good thing about being a studio band is that you really focus in your songwriting. You get your freedom. The songwriting. There are multiple ways of songwriting. You can be in a jam room with your entire band, sit down, somebody comes with a riff, somebody's playing with that, and then you plan accordingly, write it down, and then compose the song. And then you go to a producer and then get it produced, arranged, and mixed, mastered, and release it. And then after that, you tour, you do shows promoting the album. That's the usual process of a band. But in our case, it's that, first of all, we don't really get offers to play live. So we tried. It's not that we never tried. We actually tried. But the cost is so expensive that we thought that it's better we use that cost in producing the music rather than playing and performing it live. Because you perform it, suppose you have music and you are performing your songs live today. After I have a little far vision with my music. Even after 10-15 years, actually nobody's going to remember where are the venues, what all shows you perform. What is going to survive is the record, the album.
Wow, that's a very different perspective.
Yeah, actually now one of my favorite bands is Mahavishnu Orchestra. I have never seen them performing, but I still love the record.
Actually, now that you're talking about that, I also love Mahavishnu. And John McLaughlin did last year perform Birds of Fire.
Yes.
And the only reason I went down to watch it is because I never had the good fortune of watching Mahavishnu. But yeah, man, just seeing him or seeing a different band perform. But yeah, man.
Yeah, Mahavishnu is one of my biggest inspirations. In fact, the name Amogh Symphony is inspired by Mahavishnu Orchestra, that name.
Wow.
Because that's something, when I heard the name of the band, Mahavishnu Orchestra, like, wow, it sounds like no one else, dude. It sounds like, it's just because when you use the word orchestra, it can be anything.
True. And that was the beautiful part about that band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
how we've kind of sidetracked. But
favorite band.
my next question actually is linked to the previous one, so you can continue on this.
Yeah.
Is a big question I'm sure everyone who's listening to this podcast is going to be wondering at this point of the interview is it a possibility that we'll ever see Amogh Symphony live? And for the promoters and everyone else listening, what will it take?
Oh, man. I have to tell you this, man. Anytime I'm ready to play this stuff live. But there are some costs, like say my bandmates, Tom, Andre and Derek. These guys cannot be replaced by any other musicians because they are unique in their own right. And I don't like the idea of playing with backing tracks and stuff. Okay. Because I'm myself a studio musician. I'm a producer. So it's something like you do not ask the cook in a big restaurant to make a amazing dish for himself. It doesn't make any sense, right? So this is the same thing. If it's what's the point in playing with backing tracks if you know that you have actually included live musicians playing this part in the studio, you produced it, arranged it, and the beauty of performing this entire piece live in front of people. So I've been asked to play live with the backing tracks many times. I just simply refuse the idea because if I really have to perform, then I need the entire band. which means it's not just 4 of us. There will be a brass section, there will be a visual artist. So we need venues for that. We need someone who can fund for that. And especially in India, I'll be a little honest with that. Our sales, digital downloads, physical CD sales in India is almost, you can say, nil. Like people mostly, like even for the new album 4, I think only one guy from India had brought it. I think he's from Hyderabad, if I'm not wrong. He himself is a very good artist. And there is no other pre-orders. It's mostly from Europe, US, Tokyo, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So it's, again, I'm not like complaining or something, but it kind of gives you a static that...
where your market lies, really.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense if you perform it live. Doesn't guarantee that people are actually going to watch it. Because listening is a different thing. And going and watching the shows is a different experience. Now... there are many bands who sound amazing in the studio, but when you find them in the live show, they're playing it right. They know how to play it, but it doesn't give it the right feel.
Yeah, and I think this is a huge kind of debate I have also sometimes when I go to watch bands, is if I'm going to see the band play like a clinically precise performance of what they did in the studio, wouldn't I rather just sit and listen to the CD or something like that? Yeah. And considering also the high costs, I feel it's not just about, buying your ticket. You're also buying drinks.
I would also like to mention one thing, that most of our songs are actually 60% improvisation.
Wow.
The guitar solos, those horn sections, which means if we perform live,
it'll
never sound the same. The vibe will remain the same. But the best part is, if you want to witness that, each and every show we'll play something else. So for that, you have to attend the shows. And this kind of shows, no one has offered us till date. And I think the biggest problem is getting my band members down to India, and the cost of because one of us is he's married with kids. Derek is married. He has 3 kids, I think. Yeah, and one of them is divorced but has 2 kids. No, wait, 3 kids, yes. Tom has 3 kids. And Andre, who is most of the time teaching. Wow. So it's, touring, doing the shows means full dedication. Yeah. And bringing these guys to India, that's completely possible. But we also need that kind of monetary, I don't see the point of putting so much money into that thing, because our music is again accepted by a specific set of listeners, not that we have a very super number of fans. It's not like that.
It's not like you're a baby metal.
I love that band, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So what's next? I mean, I know we've spoken for close to an hour now. What's next for Amogh Symphony? I mean, I know we're talking now, I'm not sure when exactly we'll release this, whether it'll be out before the second part of Amogh Symphony 4 is out, but what's next after that for the band?
There's some limited edition cassettes are getting released.
Nice.
Of both the parts, AS 4.1, 4.2, both. We're still working on that. And once we get the confirmation of the print and everything, we'll post about it. I think by the time this thing goes out,
so for all you cassette collectors or for all you Amogh Symphony fans, cassette only, who still has a tape deck? If you do, please message me.
So this is someone from US.
Wow.
He runs a record label, and he wanted my what do you call thought on this, that you think about it. First, actually, he asked my permission to make limited cassette editions, 10 years of anniversary for Abolishing the Obsolete System, the first album.
Hang on, and you said no?
Yeah.
What?
No, because I'm a little too personal in these things, because I wanted to check everything, whether it's a troll or someone is actually doing that. So apparently he has a label, and nice guy. And I asked him, what if I ask you to make cassettes for the new album? He said, that's even a better idea.
Yeah.
So he said, yes, we'll do this. And we worked on the contract agreement, and it should be up soon.
Yeah. Stay tuned for that. Anything else? Any merch? Anything?
Yeah. We're working on the merchandise, and I think it should be out pretty soon.
Okay. So
And
if by the time this is out, we'll add the links to it, or we'll update or stuff like that. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Vishal.
Same here, Peter.
Thanks for taking time out.
It's been a long time since we met, and good time with you.
So
good to see you.
All the best, and
thank you so
definitely.
much.
So for those who haven't checked out the Amogh Symphony 4, check it out on all your digital platforms. Stay tuned for the merch or whatever they're coming out with. We'll update the links. And yeah, horns up, guys.
Wow. So just like the website amoghsymphony.org, and just like our lengthy introduction, this interview was exhaustive and comprehensive. Peter, the key takeaways. What is that one big headline that screams out at you from this chat with Vishal?
The best is yet to come. Like I said in the intro piece that we did, so I feel that Amogh Symphony is now moving further away from just being, Vishal J Singh, a solo act, to an actual band. And with the involvement, if you see how talented each member is. I mean, Tom has his own projects going. He's played with Defeated Sanity and a bunch of other acts. He was in Obscura. So definitely you'll see each one of them, Andre, Derek, each one of them as they individually are such great composers and are so involved in music. Combined, four of them, this is like, the A-team, if you want to call them.
Yeah, it's almost on par with, say, a Justice League of musicians, right? In terms of talent, or an Avengers level of a team in terms of talent. It's going to be interesting to see whether all of them stick together.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if they do like a one-off. I mean, of course, Vishal talked about the difficulties in all of them being together in one country or one place, and the logistics of pulling off a live gig, because he doesn't want to do just a run-by-the-mill normal gig. So, yeah, but it should be an experience.
I think Amogh Symphony will draw people in Bombay and Bangalore.
Yeah, beyond
and Pune.
Yeah, there would be a lot.
Looking at you, NH7 and Bangalore Tech Fest. Sorry, Bangalore Open Air.
But yeah, dude, it would take quite a bit to make it happen. But I'm sure it would be an experience that people will be talking about for years.
Yeah. And yeah, it'll be really outstanding to see that soundscape being pulled off live, because I think that would be a challenge for these musicians.
And now one of the things that's really, I think, will be challenging more than anything else is you've got 4 albums to draw from. So which songs are you going to play live?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine listening to any of Abolishing the Obsolete System live?
Oh, I would love that. But yeah, I would love to see 4 songs from 4 being played live too.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another one. And this is the one that a lot of people are going to be having on their minds after they've heard 4 and stuff. Is Vishal still metal?
I think his sound may not be metal, but the way that he goes about it and his whole attitude of really not caring what people think about is metal, if that makes sense.
What is metal? That actually has sparked off a little thought in our little heads, well, actually more in Peter's than mine. And that's a really bad segue, but it's a segue to something that we're going to be doing next week.
Oh yeah, dude, this has been on my mind, and a lot of times, I mean, I still remember having that conversation in the car with you, is, hey, do you think this band is metal?
What about this one?
What about this one?
What about that one?
And I'm sure everyone in their bedrooms, if not on chat rooms, or at some point has been discussing or has their guilty pleasure which they think are metal, or they want to say that, yeah, this band, man, come on, look at the imagery, they're metal. So yeah, I thought we thought it would be a great way to kind of discuss this and take it to public.
Yeah, and we're doing that. Really bad segue, but whatever. I think that ended up working out for us. That's on cue for the next episode. It's called Metal or Not. And we've got someone who's certified metal with us on it.
I think for anybody who's been associated with Indian metal or has come across Indian metal, probably know this person. I don't think we need much of an introduction for him.
Yeah, we'll just say cheers up and stay demonic.
Oops.
Oops. I did it again. Anyways, till the next time, catch us on Twitter. We are at HornsUpPod. I'm at Aswani.
And I'm Trend Crusher.
Till next time, horns up.
Horns up.